Hey everyone, in this video I'll show you how the new Training Tab and Gamification features in Trainual turn training from a one-time checklist into an ongoing habit your team will stick with. So I'm going to start with the training stuff. Let's start up here at the top with this new pin system. You can see here I've got a bunch of pins of different content and even software and tools that I've decided to pin. And one of the cool new features with this is that you can now pin any type of content in Trainual. So not just subjects like we had before, but you can pin all the way down to an individual page within a subject. And it just makes it super easy to reference content that you need on a more frequent basis and kind of keep the things that you need quick access to right front and center on your homepage. You can also drag and drop to rearrange these and kind of change the order, and you can search them if you have a lot of pins. And right below that, we have a new to-do widget. This is, of course, one of the most important parts of the training experience, which is just to give you an overview of what your training assignments are. There's a few updates we've made here. So things like overdue content and content that's due soon are highlighted more prominently. We have these red outlines to denote overdue content and this gray outline to denote the content that is due soon. And then we also have all the rest of the content below that. If you have a training path, this will look a little bit different, but the same idea remains as well. You can also see that I have a new badge here that lets me know when content is updated, how long ago it was updated, and that extends across the rest of the homepage too that I'll show in a moment. We also have due dates prominently displayed here, so that's really front and center. And then you can, of course, just pin everything you want as well by hovering over the content, and you'll see a new pin to home icon there. Moving below that, we have our new completed content widget. So think of this as like a mini content library, but tailored to your specific role and responsibilities. So here I can just see a pretty traditional list of all my completed training content sorted by recently viewed in this case, which I can change. But what's really cool is I can also come in here and sort it by group, which lets me basically filter the content by the different groups I'm in. So I can see content related to the product group, to the Arizona local group, and I can kind of sort by that accordingly. I can also view my completed content by my pins, and I can filter by different content types and do a quick search if there's one piece of content I'm looking for. And below that, we have a new reference widget. So reference content is content that is shared with someone, but is not marked as required for them to complete. And in that case, we now have that in a very prominent, easy to discover location right here on the homepage. And you can see badges for ones that are newly shared with you. I can also pin things, of course. And it just makes it super easy to dive into that, bonus extra, go the extra mile kind of content that I have in my Trainual account to dive deeper on my role in the company. And then finally here on the right, we have a new responsibilities widget. So this is a really cool way to tie training to the responsibilities you have in your job. So everyone can come in here and just see a very quick at a glance look at what their responsibilities are. You can open up each one. You can see things like the time commitment that's expected per week on those. And then you can also click in to see things like content that's connected to it. For example, here, I've got this piece of content connected to this responsibility, and that just makes it super easy for me to say, oh, how do I do that thing again? Let me find that responsibility and open up that content right there. Now let's jump into the gamification features. So you can probably see the first thing here on the page that's drawing a lot of attention is this new streak tracker, as we call it. It's a streak system. In this moment, I have a 28-week streak. We have options for different streak lengths too, streak frequencies that you can set in your account settings. So in this case, I've got a weekly streak, but we also have the ability to set monthly streaks or quarterly streaks to best align with company training cadences and culture around training. I can use this streak tracker to kind of go back in history to see when my streak started and when it was lost. And you probably noticed there, if I go back to that current week, I did lose my streak last week, so I have that, and I've still got a chance to regain that streak and get that started again this week here. We also have these rings, which are a much more prominent visual representation of someone's training progress. The outer ring is your completion rate, so by percentage, you can see how many items you have left to complete. I've got 3, as you can see there on the left in the to-do widget. One of them is overdue, and I'm at 76% complete. The middle ring is my training time remaining. So I've only got 6 minutes left of training time, so I can just do a quick push to get to 100% and finish that out. And then the inner ring is counting how many tests I have. So I've completed 2 and I have 0 left, so the ring is fully closed. And they're just a really easy way to kind of get a visual glance of how you're doing on your training progress. So the colors will change as you go from 0 to 100%. And when you're fully at 100%, all the 3 rings will be closed, which is just a really easy visual indicator that, hey, you're all caught up, you're done with your training. Moving down here, you'll also see we have a new training leaderboard. So the training leaderboard is based on your streak length primarily, And then secondarily, your completion rate. So streaks are kind of the tiebreaker since everyone will eventually, hopefully, be at 100% training. Streak length is kind of what will break those ties as we incentivize people for being up to date consistently and without procrastination. They'll be the ones with the highest streaks kind of elevated to the top there. So you can see here, we've got Diogo in first place. And then Dwight and Holly are in a tie. So you see them in the second place and second place tied. And then I'm in third place, and then you can see everyone else below that. And you can hover over, of course, to see what people's streak lengths are, their completion percentage, and what place they're in. And now to wrap up here, I wanted to go into account settings so I can show you kind of some of the settings we have around this. So if I go to gamification, you can see there is a toggle to enable or disable the gamification part of the training experience. In case, gamification may not align with your company's culture around training or it's just not applicable, you can turn that stuff off. But also when it's on, you do have some options, as I mentioned earlier, around your streak frequency. So the default will be a weekly streak, but you can change to do a monthly streak, and you can see here how that affects the streak tracker now by month, or even quarterly. You can see that here as well. It shows the year along with the quarter. You also have the ability to accept certain groups from participating in the gamification features. So if you have employees like part-time contractors that maybe don't have the same responsibilities or expectations around completing training, maybe you don't want them to be part of the leaderboard and part of the gamification streak experience, you can just come in here and add those groups to the exceptions list. And when you save that, those people will not see the gamification experience on their training tab. One other thing I wanted to mention as well is that we have a new experience for when you complete your to-dos. Instead of going blank like the old homepage used to, when you complete all 3 of these, you'll see a little message that says, hey, you're all caught up, and then it goes away. And the completed content widget will actually shift all the way to the top and be the first thing that users see on the page. Because in that case, you have no required training assignments to complete, but the focus kind of shifts from you doing your required training to referencing or looking up previously completed training material, going to your pins, maintaining your streak, things like that. So the page does have kind of those 2 modes that support both of those different use cases. And that about does it. So I appreciate you watching this demo today. Hope you love the new gamification features in the new training tab. And as always, we're here to hear any feedback you have, and we'll continue to make improvements to this. So thank you.